are perhaps preparing for or know that you need to have. I want to let you know that today is your lucky day. This is the opportunity for you to really ask me anything as it relates to having or preparing for difficult conversations. Now, if you're watching the video right now, you are more than likely watching the replay, and I appreciate you being here. Feel free to put any of your comments or questions that you have in the comment section. I will reply to you and do a video on your behalf if there's enough depth that I need to respond in terms of how to help you. And just know that I'm here to support you. So ask me any questions you have as it relates to having difficult conversations as a woman in leadership, or perhaps if you're a man in leadership, just ask away. I am going to share with you a couple of insights that can help you start to structure those difficult conversations you may be having here very briefly. And then I will be going live a little bit later this evening to do a Q&A also to help you with that. Now, most of the time when leaders are faced with having a difficult conversation, a lot of times they tend to struggle with difficult conversations because there's a sense of unsureness or uncertainty that they have as it relates to having a really hard conversation. Now, there are some leaders that do not have a problem having hard conversations, but they have the hard conversations in the way that really heavily focuses in on what they have to say, their agenda, and etc. And I want to share with you some insights to be able to have those hard conversations, but still have it in a way to where it's still very positive and productive. I want to say hello to Kat. Good morning, Kat. How are you doing today? Good to see you today, friend. And if you are at a point where you know you have to have a hard conversation, let's talk about it. Ask me any questions for the next probably about 5 minutes or so. As I mentioned, a lot of people struggle with it because there's just a certain amount of uncertainty they have. And the framework that I have used consistently for the past 20 years as a senior executive is to make my difficult conversations positive. You may be thinking there's no way you can make a difficult conversation positive. Yes, there is. There is a way you can do it. You just have to have a framework to it. And so every difficult conversation, I try to acknowledge the person, give them some accolades on something, whether it is the way they come to work, the way they show up at work, what they have been supportive in. There needs to be some acknowledgement of something that they are doing very well. Because what I've seen that happens a lot of times with leaders specifically is that they'll have difficult conversations, and the way they have them is more of a, you did this wrong, you did that wrong, this is wrong, everything's wrong. And that's not the way you want to have a difficult conversation. So I want to say hello to those of you who are joining today. If you have a difficult conversation that you are preparing for, this is your opportunity to ask me anything. I will help you figure out what to say within the next few minutes. And if you like this information so far, you're more than welcome to take a look at a couple videos on my channel that focus more on advanced communication skills and strategies that will help you to communicate more confidently and concisely under pressure. Thinking on Your Feet is a video. Body language, tone of voice, eye contact, managing your emotions under pressure. All of these videos on my channel will help you to communicate at a higher level than your peers and help you stand out as a leader. Cat 2030 says, can approach play a role or factor in how to change a conversation? Yes, that is actually the most important statement, Cat. It can change the dynamics of a conversation significantly, because the way you approach it has a lot to do with the way you are discussing it. So when we think about the word approach, just to dive a bit deeper into it, approach your conversation, how you approach your conversation has to do with so many things, and we'll highlight them very briefly. First, your mindset. Thank you for the heart emojis. What is your mindset to this conversation? Do you feel like, are you coming from a place of, I'm the boss, you're not the boss, and I'm going to tell you what to do? Or are you coming at it from a perspective of a leader which wants to know and is curious to see what is the challenges, what's going on, how can I help you? So your mindset is a big factor in that, in terms of that approach, Cap. The second part of it is your delivery. How are you having this conversation? Some people will be, they're trained to have a more sterner or more affirmative type of voice when they're having a hard conversation because they want to show that they're strong, right? And they're telling you what to do. Some people are just have a normal conversation. So your tone of voice is really important. I talk about this on my channel, knowing your baseline. Your team and you need to know your baseline in terms of how do you communicate on the normal basis to everyone. If you decide you want to modify your baseline in terms of speaking a little bit maybe louder, or speaking in more with excitement, or speaking lower with seriousness, your team will pick up on that. And if you're having a difficult conversation, that approach part, your tone of voice plays a huge factor into that. So making sure you know your baseline, you know what your baseline is, your team knows what your baseline is, and when you're having a hard conversation, you can easily make it like a normal conversation if you just keep your baseline the same. The way that you normally communicate with someone should be the exact same way you're communicating with them in a difficult conversation, depending on the subject and how difficult it is. Sometimes you do need to change your tone of voice. If it involves something that isn't going to impact someone's life, could cost someone their life, then you want to have definitely more of a serious tone with that for sure. But if something that is, it's an issue, you need to deal with it, you need to figure it out, then you don't necessarily have to have a deeper voice when it relates to that specifically. And then the timing also, Kat, deals with your approach as well, because every difficult conversation doesn't need to happen immediately when things happen right then and there. Sometimes it may be better to have that conversation a little bit later. I want to say hello to Pavithron. I hope I said it correctly. Hello, how are you doing today? But that approach is important. It can change the dynamics of a conversation. Let me know in the comments below if you've ever been in a situation where you've had someone speak to you in a way where the information was fine, but their approach was not. Let me know in the comments below. But approach is a huge part of it, Kat. Thank you so much for bringing that up. So what I'm going to do is we'll talk a bit more about this later this afternoon when I go live. We'll do Q&A as it relates to those difficult conversations. I do Q&As on Fridays. You're welcome to ask me any questions as it relates to this, and we'll talk about it this evening when I go live. Pratik Galakar, welcome, friend. Good morning. How you doing? It's been a while since I've seen you. Hope you're doing well. Kat says, tone is what will set the stage on how the approach will go on moving forward. Absolutely, Kat. That is a very good observation, and that is true. Pratik Galakar 1011 says, how are you? Pratik, I'm doing well, friend. Good to see you. Good to see you. I'm doing fantastically well. So I will see you all later this afternoon or this evening when I go live. We'll talk a little bit more about boundaries, and we'll talk a little bit about having difficult conversations Q&A. We may transition to difficult conversations because I know that's something that many people struggle with. And Pratik Galakar says, I'm doing good. I watch replays. Absolutely. Well, good. Well, it's good to see you. Glad to see you again. And I hope you all have an absolutely fantastic day. And if you have any questions, just put them in the comments below. Bye for now.